right, thank you, Mr. Petridis, on behalf of Isaiah Chance.
Please, the court. I want to thank you again. You're going to get a lot of thank yous today, and they're well deserved. We are at the end of your service, but as I said in my opening, we are also probably at the most difficult part of your service, and we all understand that. I want to start by saying justice will be served. Isaiah Chance will spend the rest of his life in prison, punished away from society. All we are asking is that you spare his life. Death is never required. The death penalty exists for the worst of the worst. We submit that Isaiah Chance is not that. As I said, he will pay for this crime every day for the rest of his life. We are asking you to let him have that life. This is going to be a conversation about life, a request on behalf of a young man and his family, Isaiah Chance, someone from Jacksonville, lived with his mother, who sat in his grandmother's lap, who called his father all the time, went to Atlanta to be with his grandparents. A man with 3 children. That's who you are deciding about today. A man who spent every day of his life working harder than those around him, just trying to keep up and working harder to make it seem like he wasn't doing that. You heard from 6 people and a doctor, 6 people who love him and a doctor from that chair, and they told you who he is. They're asking for you to believe them and to listen to them. The law gives you this phase of the trial for a reason. You have decided guilt. We are past that. They ask you to decide who Isaiah Chance is and who he is and how he got to be that, if he's worth saving. As Ms. Finkelstein said, mitigation does not excuse. Mitigation explains. I'm asking you to look at Isaiah Chance, a full human being, and decide whether death is appropriate, if death is the answer. And death, we would argue, is never necessary. You heard from his entire family during the penalty phase, and like I said, a doctor. 7 different witnesses from 7 somewhat different vantage points, but all told you essentially the same thing. From Victoria Gray, she described his mother. She described him as quiet, gentle, close with his family, never violent. Someone who really didn't want to play football, who had goals. He wanted to be a merchant seaman, an entrepreneur. He was trying to build something. She told you him and his entire family had hobbies, I think she said martial arts, that they would do together because they loved each other and they genuinely wanted and loved to be around each other. Think about her, what it takes to raise 6 children, not on her own, but in large part on her own, in Jacksonville, and each one of them know that they are loved. Isaiah Chance clearly knew he was loved by his mother. He told you that himself through his interviews with the doctors. He told you that by how he acted with his father, how he acted with his grandparents, how he acted with his children. He got that from his mother. She gave that to him. It didn't come from nowhere. You heard from Isaiah Chance Sr., a United States Marine, who after serving came back to Jacksonville, who after getting divorced from his mother stayed in his child's life, stayed in Isaiah Chance's life. When he would help him with his schoolwork, he saw him struggling. And he said, hey, it reminded him of himself. You're like me. I struggled. Keep going. I see you. Not an excuse, but just, I see you work. I see you working. He told you something else. He said that Isaiah called him all the time. And every time he hung up the phone, he said the same thing beforehand. He said, I love you, to his dad. Every single time. Something so ingrained, it was subconscious or subconscious, but he said it. No one's listening when you're talking to your father on the phone. It's not performative. It's just something you do. And he decided at some point, like I said, maybe subconsciously, that every time he talked to his dad, he wanted to let his dad know that he loved him. That is not something, again, that he decided to do performatively. That just shows you that's him as a son. Heard from his grandmother, Elizabeth Jordan, Nana, I think she said. She said he used to sit in her lap when he was a baby, and if he could, he would do it today. She told you that her and Papa used to take the grandchildren on vacation and take them to church. They were there for the grandchildren, and when they needed Isaiah, he was there for them. She told you when Papa was sick, I believe 7 days he was in a coma. Isaiah Chance didn't call and see how he was doing. He didn't text. see how he's doing. He showed up. He stayed at the hospital until he woke up. And then when they needed someone, when Papa wanted to go home to be with his wife in Atlanta, she couldn't care for him on his own, they called Isaiah Chance. And he showed up time after time. I think it's, like a 5-hour drive from Jacksonville to Atlanta? And he made that over and over again for years to be with his grandparents, to help take his 260-pound grandfather out of bed when his grandmother couldn't. When he was 19, 20, and 21. When most kids are thinking only about themselves, Isaiah Chance realized that when family calls, you show up. And he did that. I think that's an important part of Isaiah Chance and who he is. Someone with value. And I ask you to remember that as you deliberate. You heard from Michelle Smith, his godmother. Knew him, she said, before he was born. Had a good relationship with him. And she said she would always tell him the truth. That's the AC kicking on, thankfully. She supported.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It sounds like the AC has kicked on, so Mr. Petraeus, just if you could try and just give it, now it sounds like a windstorm over there. So.
It's a good thing, though.
Yes, it is a good thing.
You heard from Nashon Nix, his former stepfather, his mentor. And he was someone I thought was a very important witness. He's not blood related to Isaiah Chance or his mother, obviously. Didn't have to be here. He was in Isaiah's life from 7 to 12, so a little while ago. And he built an organization whose entire purpose was identifying young men who can be reached and investing in them. And he saw many that couldn't be reached. And he showed up here. He told you when he was with Isaiah, he noticed things. He would go to school meetings. He would talk to him after school. He would talk to his guidance counselor. He noticed things the family saw as well. He was pushing for tutoring, for structure, and for support. And years later, after he was out of Isaiah's life, no longer with his mother, Isaiah Chance needed a letter of recommendation to be a merchant seaman. And he went to Mr. Nix. And Mr. Nix saw something in Isaiah Chance, and he put his reputation on the line, and he wrote that letter of recommendation for him. That's not obligation, that is not sentiment. It's a man who spent his career learning to see who people are, and he saw something in Isaiah Chance, and we're asking that you see the same thing. You heard from Miss Wade. She's known him from about when he was 16 years old to when he was becoming an adult. She said when she needed someone to house sit, when she needed someone to pet sit, and anyone who knows pets knows that that's a serious obligation, someone to let someone else watch their pet, she called Isaiah Chance. She never had any issues. She never had any trust issues. He did it every time. That's not someone you let do that unless you genuinely trust that nothing will happen. And she told you he would talk to her about his plans for life, specific plans, his goals, what he wanted to accomplish. And she plans to stay in touch with him while he's in prison. Tells you everything about what kind of person inspires that kind of loyalty. 6 witnesses, 6 different relationships, telling you 6 different years of Isaiah Chance's life, different eras, all telling you the same thing. He was quiet, respectful, gentle, loving, nonviolent. A young man who needed a little more structure than the world gives to most people. Then there's the science. Dr. Tracy Hardig, forensic psychologist. She spent hours with Isaiah Chance. She did actual IQ and academic testing. She reviewed school records going back to when he was in preschool. But before that, let's talk about what she said when she noticed him. He was quiet. He was mild-mannered. He wanted to be there. He wanted to do the test. He was not depressed. And he kept saying the same thing essentially throughout the testing. I'm smart. I know I didn't do great in school, but he wanted to impress her. And he used some big words, and I would say he used some correctly and some incorrectly, like he did with Dr. Warner. He got a full-scale IQ of 71. That's what she got through the testing. At age 22, he reads at a 5th grade level. His math is at a 3rd grade level. The things that a lot of us take for granted in life that we get through life are genuinely harder for Isaiah Chance. Not impossible, just harder. She reviewed his Duval County school records, which I believe Dr. Werner glossed over. He had 3 tests done in school, and they all said the same thing at ages 4, at ages 10, and ages 12. 3 different other evaluators, independent. At age 4, said he had issues with speaking, and we heard from multiple of his witnesses telling you that he was nonverbal at that time. So corroboration. At age 10, he got the same score as Dr. Hardig got, corroboration. And at age 12, he was even a little bit lower, again. And then he's removed from that school. People with IQs in this range are not unintelligent. They can form relationships, they can have jobs. And we're not asking you to weigh his IQ as an excuse, but just as context, something you can weigh when you're back there deliberating on mitigation. She also diagnosed ADHD, and the clinical observations you saw from school showed the same thing. Off task over 30% of the time, way more than his classmates, and it was never treated. The state talked about a co-defendant not having IQ tests because they didn't provide corroboration, and they talked about that as a bad thing. Well, we have corroboration from 3 IQ tests, and they don't want you to look at that, and I'm asking you to look at those IQ tests that corroborate Dr. Hardig's and go against what Dr. Warner said. And the last thing I want to say about Dr. Warner is she said that she trusted the testing that was done in school, trusted the testing that Dr. Hardig did, trusted and agreed with the results of both, but disagreed with the diagnosis, which is based on the results. I would say that doesn't follow. We also heard that he could be vulnerable in the wrong environment. He has a lifelong need to belong, and that's a human, that's a character. It's not a character flaw; it's just a human need. But I want to talk about what the right environment looked like. That looked like what Mr. Nix provided. When Mr. Nix was there, when he provided structure, when someone was paying attention, made real progress. Isaiah made real progress. It tells you something. Isaiah Chance is not someone who's beyond reach. He's someone who does better when someone is paying attention. We're not here to ask you to believe that he will never struggle again. We're asking you to believe that struggle will be worth it, that he has value, that it matters, that he is not what happened in the worst moments of his life. Now, the state pointed to the aggravators. They spent a lot of time on the aggravators, and we're not here to minimize what happened, not at all. We're not here to argue those either. We're here to talk about this young man, him as a human being, about things that make his life worth saving. We're here to tell you we believe the mitigators outweigh the aggravators. Like Ms. Finkelstein said, you're going to get a list of the mitigators. I'm not going to go through all of them. I do want to go through a few of them. And you give whatever weight you believe to these mitigators. Isaiah Chance has no significant history of prior criminal activity. You heard from his mom and his dad, no arrests, nothing. His age at the time of the crime, he was 21 years old at the time of this crime. He was a young man. Like I said, he suffers from borderline intellectual disability and untreated ADHD. This loving relationship with his children, which I'll get into in a little bit. This loving relationship that you heard from his family and friends that goes both ways. Isaiah Chance did not carry, use, or threaten to use a firearm during the commission of this offense. Let me be clear, this in no way lessens his guilt. But it is a fact that you can consider when you're back there, that he did not have a firearm during this offense. And again, there's the catch-all. Anything else you heard from any witnesses on that stand that you saw, that you believe is a mitigator, you can use. Isaiah Chance is a son, a brother, a grandson, and father whose life has meaning to others. His children, Kabri, Kylan, and Amiri. His mom told you he was a great father. He wanted to be involved with his kids. Miss Wade told you he was always calling her, asking her for advice. He wanted to be involved. He was present. He was trying to be a good father. He was 21 years old with 3 kids, actively seeking out guidance to be a better father. That is not the behavior of someone who doesn't care. That is behavior of a young man who understood that fatherhood mattered and was trying imperfectly to rise to it. He cherishes fatherhood and has a great relationship with his 3 children. That is not nothing. For a 21-year-old who may have some limitations, trying to figure out how to be present for 3 children, that effort means something. It tells you something about who he is when the stakes are personal. He showed up for his children just like he showed up for his grandparents. It's not a legal argument. It's a fact about what it means to be human. His kids are growing up right now. One day they will be old enough to know their father, to write him a letter, to ask him a question only he can answer. And he will be in prison. But a father can still be a father behind bars. A letter, a phone call, a presence. We are simply asking for you to leave that door open. 7 people testified in the penalty phase. 6 who have known him parts or all of his life in a doctor. Dr. Hardy told you the clinical side. People like Isaiah are a little more vulnerable. They want to belong. They want to follow because it's safer than the alternative. He spent his entire life working harder than other people, failing and trying again. He put his family first and truly sacrificed on multiple occasions when it mattered. He sat in church with Nana and Mr. Nix and talked about God and life. He was a great brother and a great and attentive father. He was someone's son, someone's grandson, someone's father. He's a human being with limitations and with love. You heard about the continued support he will get while in prison. On behalf of his mother, who raised him with structure and love, his father, who was there for his son and still wants to be there for his son, Elizabeth Jordan, who he sat in her lap his entire life, and Nashawn Nix, a man who owes him nothing but showed up here to tell you that he loves him, and he better know that he still loves him. We are asking you to spare his life. The family did not need to come here. They chose to. They sat in a witness chair knowing everything that you know, and they want to tell you that this person is not beyond saving. They're not in denial. They know what happened. They still came here, and they're still asking. That says something about Isaiah Chance that no test score or school record can fully capture. It tells you the people who know him best, who have seen every version of him, have decided he's worth fighting for. And we are asking you to agree with them. The death penalty is reserved for the worst of the worst. And we would argue that Isaiah Chance and the facts of this case do not meet that criteria. He's not the kind of person for whom there's no threat of redemption or no evident conscience that the death penalty was designed for. Death is never required. Again, as I say in my opening, the law favors life because it always gives you the opportunity to give mercy. We are asking you to consider that a person can do something unforgivable and still not be beyond the reach of mercy. Isaiah Chance will spend the rest of his life in prison. He will carry what happened to him every day. We are not asking for you to forgive what happened. We are not asking you to forget it, minimize it, or look away. We are asking you to look at the full human being, everything I've talked about and everything you've heard from the stand, and decide that death is not the answer. Justice will be served. He will spend his life in prison. Today's the last day he's going to wear street clothes. Last time we'll put a suit on. Mercy does not mean forgetting. Mercy means choosing deliberately and with full knowledge what you know to let someone live. The law gives you that option, gives you the option for a reason. We are asking that you use it. We are asking that you spare Isaiah Chance's life. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Ms. Toomey, on behalf of Davion Murphy.